Probably so.
There you go. See, he hasn't talked to Hafiz yet. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the situation. And we hadn't spoken for a minute, since our last conversation. Maybe that's why I can't really call it.
Right. How's everything going?
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Everything is, everything. Just busying it up. A lot of teaching and a lot of programming going on. How we do? We just have to keep strong with the effort of the Quran. The Quran Majid.
All right. Alhamdulillah. That's what's up. I mean, that's your forte, so you gotta get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, that's the responsibility, really. Being a preserver of the Holy Quran. You just can't not practice. You have to practice it. If you don't practice it, then you're rejecting what you already know, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I see Baba around the house here reciting the other day and stuff. So
I heard about that. I heard that your man, he's not a boy. I heard that your man is all about Holy Quran now. He says he's rejuvenated or something. Somebody,
that's what he told you?
Yeah. Somebody was telling me that he's now rejuvenated. He knows he messed up, and he's back into his reading. That's what I was told.
Well, alhamdulillah, we've been staying over here for the last week. Him and his wife not together no more, so he's going through changes about that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been staying over here, so he's making us a lot and stuff. So
Alhamdulillah.
he needs to get his program together.
It usually is, something that happens that makes us, turn back to Allah and the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Right.
I think that, when we realize what that is and we start to think in the right direction, then, things start to fall in line, So, inshallah, I mean, I think that's what really did it for him, and he will continue on the right path. I mean, he got pretty far. He had over 20 Jews. From what I recall, he had over 20 Jews. It's a task, brother. It really is a task, It's not easy. Especially when you have, people walking around who memorize the Quran, but don't know what it means and can't really apply it, So those who are trying to, memorize at least, they don't know where to look for example, because those who have memorized it are practically, unaware of what it's saying. They're just doing the best that they can from what it is that they know, but they didn't, a lot. It's strange, and I ask Gambia, I ask Senegal, I ask all these Muslim countries, like, how is it that you all have 12 grades of an Islamic curriculum and a person doesn't necessarily go through the Quran, but they go through all these other books on all these other topics, but they don't go through the Quran. And that's very strange.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, all of them. I mean, all the Muslim countries, like, you can go into an Islamic program, put your son in grade 1, and they can go all the way through grade 12 without even completing the Quran. Not even one time completing. I mean, that's got to be the biggest scheme in our history, in the Muslim history ever. Prophet ﷺ was given the Quran. That's what he used. That was the best example. His companions followed that example after he passed. The same Quran. How is it that, we as Muslims today are supposed to be following them, but we going after other than the Quran, So it turns around to being like, okay, are we really Muslim, or we just think that we're Muslim, or, do we... I mean, I think also, like, the end of times is very near,
Of course, yeah. I guess, most countries and stuff always trying to make the curriculum look competitive to the Western.
The Western, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But why? But I mean, how is that Islam? The fact that you're looking for Western endorsements and Western, I mean, where is this from the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It's not there, But Allah says, as you're doing this, you're never going to satisfy them until you leave your Islam. And that's what's happening. So now Westerners are satisfied with the educational curriculum because you've left your deen. You know, it's a sad reality. And you have some real prominent, you know, big time speakers on the social media, and Allah reward them. Really, I mean, I know that a lot of them, you know, they have good hearts and they're sincere, but the information that they're given has been miscommunicated to them from the beginning. You know, when they cannot, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that they're driving that message. Like, we Muslims and Christians and Jews are all the same. We all have the same religious base. It all, you know, to make sure that everybody knows that Islam is the same as Christianity. Some people decide to follow Islam and some people decide to follow Christianity, but it's all the same. So this is the kind of point they're trying to drive under the circumstances. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a twofold thing. You know, people are trying to make that analogy because they're trying to create peace between the three. You know what I mean? So they're saying, you know, there's no reason for a Muslim to hate a Christian or Christian to hate a Muslim or to hate a Muslim, etc. Because we all, you know, believe in the same God. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what it is that they think they're doing or what it is that they're trying to do. But the problem is that is adding on to the religion. See, you don't have to add anything on, right?
Right.
Allah Ta'ala did not say and command us to hate his creation, whether they're Muslim or not. That's not what he has commanded us to do, right? In fact, he says even when the people reject Islam, they're still being given favors from him. They still get, you know, air to breathe. They still get fresh water. You understand? This is a blessing from Allah. They can still digest their food. If he wasn't merciful, he would have cut all that off because they didn't believe in him, right? So it's that simple to explain, right? And you understand, it's clear. The message is clear. Like, okay, you are following what you say you believe in. I am following what it is that I say that I believe in. Let me follow what I follow and you follow what you follow, right? I'm not forcing you to follow what I follow. Neither am I going to compromise what I follow for you. There's no need to that. Is there? You're not compromising for me. And if you were, that's the more reason why what you believe is why it's your belief. What I believe is what Allah Ta'ala has already ordained. I can't change that. He says don't compromise. I'm not going to compromise, right? But that doesn't, you know, I don't know. It's kind of hard. In a way, one thing that I want to make, you know, very transparent in all of this is that Islam is the only deen that Allah accepts. He says that in the Quran. He doesn't accept modern day Christianity. He doesn't accept modern day Judaism. And I think that's a message that people are trying to hide from. They're trying to, but that's what he says. That's the Quran talking. Whomsoever comes to me other than Islam, I don't accept it. So where's the problem there? Worship, you know, go on with what it is that you're doing. And I'm going to keep advocating the message of Islam, whether you accept it or whether you reject it, but I'm not compromising for you. You know? Yeah, I mean, we're not supposed to hate the creation of Allah, but we're supposed to hate kufr. We are supposed to hate when people associate with Allah. We're supposed to hate that deed. We're not supposed to love that and like it and look, you know, the other way. You understand? So, you know, neither are we supposed to try to make them feel like we're all one. You know, yeah, we're human beings. We come from the same maker, but he has given us a way, and that's the way that we follow. If you don't want to follow it, there's no compulsion in religion. There's no compulsion in this deed, you know. So, but that's, you know, because of the fact, what I'm trying to say is the point I was trying to make, because of the fact that they're trying so hard with that, you know, with that message, right? They're trying so hard to make that point. They're adding on in their statements what they cannot have any justification for.
Yeah.
Right? They're saying things that they were taught would make the masses feel secure. But as a matter of fact, it doesn't really guarantee that anyway. Right? Yeah, you spread a lot of misinformation, but when they find out it's misinformation, they're like, okay, so Muslims are liars. And that's what's happening. So, we just have to be firm with what Allah has given us. We really do have to go back to the history, the historical implication in order to know where we're heading, right? But until then, and like you said, they're spending so much time competing with the West that they left the deen, brother. That's it.
Yeah, they lose sight of it, man, what the real mission is,
Yeah.
But I think, alhamdulillah, for those small villages and small groups, grassroots kind of people who, like Ustad Palm, Ustad Abdullah.
Yeah, see.
Direction that they take, so it's like small enclaves like that, though, that still take that direction, you know what I mean?
Well, see, Ustaz Abdullah Palm and the liking of Ustaz Ahmed in Gambia, Ustaz Ahmed As-Somal, the teacher who taught me, Ustaz Ahmed, Ustaz Palm. All of these teachers right now, for example, the last conversation I had with Ustaz Ahmed, okay? And Babar, I think Babar met Ustaz Ahmed. You met Ustaz Palm, but Ustaz Ahmed was the one that Babar was in Gambia when they went to that school in Gambia. When I bring the same point up to him, he asked me, he's like, okay, now I understand. I get your point that there's been a lot of this misinformation to a point where our educational system is definitely, and he agrees. But he says to me, what do you want? He says, this Quran that you're practicing, you in America, what do you want? I asked him, are you serious? Are you serious? And I have to, because, looking at the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm talking about the Madani period, I'm looking at the era of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. We should all know what their mission was and should not have any question about what it is today. We should not have any question about what their mission is today. So I told him, I said, Jaysh Muhammad, the army of Muhammad, Sawfa Ya'ud. This was a slogan that the Muslim army was chanting as they went to march into Khaybar. Because Jibril, this was after the battle of the ditch. The Prophet ﷺ was about to put down his armor and everything, his weapons. And then Jibril came to him and said, you got to march on Khaybar. This mission isn't over until you march on Khaybar. So he gave an order to the Sahabas not to pray until they reach Khaybar. And so they were chanting the slogan, Jaysh Muhammad, Sawfa Ya'ud, Sawfa Ya'ud, Sawfa Ya'ud. The army of Muhammad will return, will return, will return. That's what I want here. That's what every Muslim should want here. This is absolutely unacceptable that we Muslims sit back and try to compromise our religion to where we have left Islam, to where our children and children to come are actually involved with all of the non-Muslim entertainment, the non-Muslim talk, the non-Muslim dress, everything non-Muslim. Where is the Muslim culture left? Where is the Quran left in this? You see? And as I mentioned to you before, when I was going to Ustaz Abdullah Palm back in the 90s, in the mid-90s, that place was nothing like that. I had to revamp my whole thinking when I got there, like, whoa. So, but that just comes to tell you that, if you have, the zeal and you are firm on it, it's just a matter of time, but you can't just accept anything from anybody, I refer to them, Ustaz Palm, Ustaz Ahmed, Imam Idrisa, all of these, well-versed, knowledgeable Hufaz al-Quran people, I can find them as, Sharia points or, whatever type of, Sufiya questions or a set of questions that there are. But as far as the operations that we're dealing with here in America with these kuffar, oh yeah, Allah, that's a different story altogether because, Ustaz Pam's been here before, but he was just here to lead the Taraweeh and then he went back. Ustaz Ahmed's never been here, neither of the rest of them. But until you come here and you live among the people and you understand, the problems that we're facing, the issues in our community, there's only so much, I'm expecting to get from those who have that knowledge in those countries, outside of America. And it's unfortunate that...
It's understandable, they can't relate to it.
They can't relate to it. They can't, no.
Like, we can't relate to a lot of things that, that they're going through.
Nuh-uh. Well, because of the fact that I was raised in their mix, right? I was raised there. I can relate to. They do. Yeah. All right. I'll tell you some, because Ustaz Pam is not he's not he doesn't follow Tariq or Sufi or nothing like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. One of the doctors who's, like one of his, he studied at his school or whatever, he's done work with him or for him or whatever. He goes to a farm. He's a veterinarian, and he goes to